Welcoming you back to crypto's juiciest news. Well, I've got the helmet. We're still at war. Are we throwing grenades? No. Throwing pokeballs. Many people still think it's over, friends. We are caught in the middle of a range, even though in ranging mode, when we go down, there's massive fear. When you go up, you start to get a bit euphoric. We're going to be speaking about StableCoin SuperCycle again. US government shutdown ending, Michael Saylor buying, Vivek buying BTC. The Bank of England and some other parts of Europe really showing their deep state hands by limiting the amount of stablecoins that they're going to allow citizens to have, which is absolutely disgusting. But that's why we made crypto in the first place, because you can't do that. Okay? All of that coming your way and more. First off, BTC, the monthly candle. 2 red, but it's pretty nice. We have 2 massive wicks on the way down. BTC around $105,000. We're not out of the woods yet. You know what I mean? This is the short-term price action, friends. This is pretty much it. It's kind of funny how Bitcoin went exactly back around this previous monthly low. It's around here, 105 to 107. And it's just hanging around here, okay? We've seen these things thousands of times before. They're totally random. And we don't know what comes next. And that's why, personally, I am not excited unless I see Bitcoin close a weekly candle above 118. Anything below it, I don't give a crap. Because there's thousands of things that can go wrong. But here we are, still caught in the middle. Waves up and down. I'm going to show you some blockchain backer charts shortly as well, friends. He pretty much thinks the top is definitely in for Bitcoin. I'm not so sure. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't want to jinx it. I don't think it's in, man. It's just based off everything that we've seen this cycle. I don't think it's in. So BTC at around 105, 106 here. This is still literally nothing. This is what it always does, even on these tiny little bounces and recoveries here. And I know it does make everyone scared because, you want answers. I want answers too. We're not going to get them, man. We're not going to get them. I can tell you something though, friends. I can tell you something, okay? Everyone's going off past 4-year cycles, right? Everyone's like, the 4-year cycle went like this, number of days, yada, yada. But then a few things happened which blew everything out of the water. For example, Bitcoin broke its all-time high in the Bitcoin halving year, okay? That's never happened before, all right? And that was literally, that caught everybody by surprise. So we have seen some weird stuff happen, and also Bitcoin dominance, right? Bitcoin has just been in massive focus for a long time because of the PMI, I mean, think about the unlikelihood of you guessing that Bitcoin was going to break its all-time high in the Bitcoin halving year early, but you are going to have a black swan 36-month bad PMI in a row. All right, just think about how unlikely it would have been that you would have guessed that. But that happened. Okay, that happened, and no one saw that coming. So I just want you to leave your mind open for the possibility that maybe all those people calling for the end, maybe they don't know what the hell they're talking about either. See, friends, this happens also in the stock market all the time. We see patterns and then we try to relate it to something that happened in the past. I mean, the most obvious one is 1999 tech bubble, right? Everyone's trying to see, this PE and this company, and then this thing is happening and there's this advertisement, and they're always trying to link it to the past. But actually what happens is something different kind of always happens every time. It's only in the extreme, mega extreme moments where it becomes relevant. But a lot of people are like really eager to match something to the past. And what you'll find is a lot of them just keep getting it wrong. Now what I'm going to do is show you the Bitcoin dominance chart here. We have BTC. Still, friends, 3 months in a row below the 10-period moving average of the Bitcoin dominance. This is a monthly. It's a very, very big macro chart. No one's paying attention to it. A lot of people still think that Bitcoin dominance is going to be charging up. If I show you the price action for Ethereum as well, friends, Ethereum, of course, looking a bit weaker, but it's still above that previous monthly low, but this is still nothing, you know what I mean? So Ethereum above 4,800, we're in the clear, but I mean, like, what does that really tell you? There's a giant range here, just this giant gap, which we want to clear for Ethereum. And a lot of people still think it's over. But you just got to think, man, is the world going to become more digital or less over time? We know it's going to be more digital. Now, you probably want to see what the racist Russell 2000 has been doing. Do you remember, friends? The racist Russell 2000 went above its all-time high and faked out below it 7 times. And 2 days ago, it went below its all-time high for the 8th time. But look what it just did again. In this recent session, remember this is just the cash session, it actually came back and it closed again above the all-time high. I mean, what a miracle. And this can't be overstated enough, friends. The racist Russell 2000 even doing this, remember, why is it important? It's the small cap, unprofitable shares in the US stock market. There's 2,000 companies, 1,000 not even making money. Okay, the real number is 40%, but there's the ones in between. They're barely making $1, okay? So this index, it's a good proxy, which is it's something you can look at where you go, well, if half your companies are poop and you're going up, it must mean people are participating with some confidence in the future, which means they think you don't make money now, but in the next 6, 12, 18 months, 3 years, you're going to turn it around. Now, why would people be buying this stuff to think they can turn it around? Well, maybe AI, maybe interest rates, maybe the economy. Doesn't matter. For whatever reason, they're just confident about the future. They're more confident about the future than they are in the past. And that's exactly what we need to be thinking about. So these, friends, will also coincide with the PMI going up, okay? So that's actually something in markets where they say you're always dealing with emotions, and it actually is true. You know, there is no mathematical formula out there where you can just find that a company is worth, say, $10 per share, but it's really trading at 2. Okay, if only it was that simple. And then you buy it and the market reprices it. It doesn't work like that. What you actually find is the market will know, yeah, it could be worth $10, but the economy's so bad, we don't even think it's worth buying it right now because we don't know how long this uncertainty will last for. That's actually the complicated thing about markets. People, they can they'll understand the logic, but their emotions will still override. Okay, if you can remove that, you win. The problem is you got to wait infinite amount of time. You don't know how long it's going to take for the market to eventually come to its senses. When does the market come to its senses? That's exactly what I spend 18 hours a day here figuring out. I'm like, hey man, how come sometimes you guys are little bitches and other times you want to buy $400,000 JPEGs? And then you end up finding out, of course, the business cycle, friends. The business cycle is just a measure of how everyone's acting today, okay? When you have a PMI of 60 to 64, everyone out there, from the handyman, the plumber, the car mechanic, everyone out there, your companies, your businesses are making a bit more money than average, a lot more, and they're feeling more confident to invest for the future. When you have a PMI below 50, no one can think straight, okay? Electricity's too high, car payments are too high, bills are too high, you don't give a crap, okay? You don't give a crap about anything out there that might be mispriced. So that's why what we see, if the racist Russell 2000 can start moving up, and we also see it with Ethereum, it's like an early reading that people are starting to feel more confident of the future, but we have been faked out before, okay? So that's what ultimately we're waiting for. And, if only there was a button, that's why everyone always asks me, so what did they do in the past? Why can't they just repeat it? It's psychological, man. You can't actually force it. Sometimes it's the interest rate. Sometimes it's tech. Sometimes it's trade wars. Sometimes it's an actual war. You just don't know, man. It's just a phenomena. You don't know, right? But that's what actually gives us opportunity. If this thing was mechanical, no one would ever sell shares and altcoins down 80% for you to have this opportunity to buy. Also, on the upside, okay, if there was an actual mechanical sine wave to these, no one would ever overprice the stuff you own, okay? For example, no one would go and pay $400,000 for a JPEG or buy up a coin 40x higher, right? Because, if they were so sure of the sine wave happening, which is just the mechanics of it, then you would never get your overpricing, But we didn't care about the overpricing because that's a long way away now, isn't it? But we're down here. We're in the underpricing zone. But you got to remember, the same emotions that are making everybody feel like it's all over, eventually everyone's going to overprice things. They're going to pay a lot for stuff. Okay, that's what we call pricing into the future, where we say people price things into perfection, you know. But there's also more controversy right now, because if you look at Nvidia, 5 trillion market cap, you're probably wondering, Sammy, that's pricing things to perfection into the future. Yeah, but then there's a bit of nuance all the time, isn't it? Because Nvidia is making GPU chipsets, and they actually have a monopoly. No one can make a chipset like them, and they're booked out for the next 5 years for every AI. See what I mean? There's always like a bit of nuance to these. So it's funny, you just walk in, you think, oh, that's stupid. You went up 150x in a row, but then you find out, oh, there's a reason for it, okay? So what you and I are going to hopefully try to do is wait for that moment where everyone's too optimistic about the future, okay? That's why I think with Nvidia, I don't think Nvidia is expensive at all, because it's infrastructure, okay? Infrastructure is boring, okay? If you look at retail being excited for tech, okay, it gets really silly. Okay, what's silly mean? We don't know yet. Okay, but you know, if you look at 1999, they were selling dog food at like 100 PE. Okay, that was pets.com. You know what I mean? So yes, we do actually have a pets.com equivalent today, but back then it was so early for it. You know what I mean? So hopefully we do get to see some sort of silliness out there, but you never know as well, because it's still in everyone's memory, right? Will the US Fed even let it get that silly? Okay, that's why sometimes these things try to repeat. You're always looking for a pattern, but not always. Speaking of patterns as well, friends, we have quantitative tightening, which finished back in August 2019. And then we had the first green OTHERS-btc candle on the month, okay? And now history seems to be rhyming. QT is ending, and we now have a green OTHERS-btc candle again. Okay, so what's actually happening is the market, so if you ask each individual person, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, but as a collective, the wisdom of the crowd, they are starting to front run, if you zoom in, okay, they are starting to front run the easy conditions coming in, okay, and this is actually 12 months later. You had August 2020, that was the Link ETH ratio high. That's actually Chainlink and DeFi having its blow-off season. Does that mean we're going to run for 12 months? I don't know. I can tell you right now, though, whatever comes later, right, this QT ending and then easing going on, people start to buy it up now. So we're looking at the price action here, but we don't want to jinx it. You know what I mean? Because this is a sad part, right? We've known they're going to do this for a long time, but look, the market still dunks it down. You know, it's very unfortunate with crypto, right? It's very, very double-edged. It's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Like you know they have to print. You know the debt's going to get bigger. You know it's all a scam. The problem is it's so emotional. You have like the weakest of the weak hands here. You have people that don't use long-term moving averages. You know what I mean? Everyone's on a daily chart or a 1 hour chart. And there's no fundamental value in their mind. They're like, oh, this thing's down 99%. I don't care. I don't like crypto today. I'm selling. Okay? They don't do that often in stocks, okay? They've got company policy. Like a lot of hedge funds, for example, you're not allowed to own, for your total portfolio, the maximum position you can take is like 8% of your whole company fund, for example, maximum. Sometimes even smaller than that, you know what I mean? So even if you don't like a stock, you got to think about it a bit, you know? But in crypto, totally different. In crypto, they wake up, they're like, oh, Crypto, making a health channel. Okay, I don't like crypto anymore. Boop. Okay, that's why that kind of explains 99% of what we see. Now let's move on to some juicy news, friends. The US government shutdown has officially ended. They've now voted out here. It's pretty much starting to get priced in. Pretty cool to see the US government shutdown. Apparently they've built up like $1 trillion of TGA, which is the gay account. This is the NASDAQ, friends. I'll put it on the daily as well. The NASDAQ just hanging around here. Very, very high. People are scared that the NASDAQ is going to topple down. Not so fast, okay? There's a stock market, when it rolls, it literally rolls, friends. The stocks aren't like crypto where you hit a top and then you drop 100%, okay? Stocks hit a top and then they roll. They keep rolling and rolling and rolling. Could take 6, 12, 18 months before they finally figure out that they're a bit too high. This is the Bitcoin chart with gold here, 86-day offset and global liquidity. We are very far behind. Are we going to get the long-awaited rotation? I don't know. We'll see. In other news as well, friends, we have Tether holding $181 billion in assets now. StableCoin SuperCycle is real. Not is fake, is real. Everyone out there wants a piece of the pie. StableCoin SuperCycle, it's like the easiest thing you can basically copy paste. Every company wants to do it. And the US government benefits. They just get to buy a stablecoin. They have their own rules. They report to the US Fed. They buy US treasuries and they grab their yield. And this might be problematic for every non-US country in the future, because every citizen of most countries, they don't want to hold their own currency because they're getting debased so fast. So if you're going to hold a stable coin, you want to hold the US dollar, right? It's world reserve currency. That's what America does. They literally go to every country. They put a gun to everyone's head. They say, hey, you have to trade gold and pair it with USD. You have to trade oil and pair it with USD. You know, so it has a network effect. That's what the US dollar is. It's kind of funny enough, friends. That's why the US dollar didn't go to zero in 1971. When President Richard Nixon, he took it off the gold standard. Okay, I mean, it would have been a very scary time. You would have felt like the end of civilization's coming. But it didn't. US dollar actually is still around. It actually got stronger. Why? Metcalfe's law. That's why. Okay? Metcalfe's law. That's why 1971, the US dollar did not go to zero. Okay, even though they unbacked it. Yeah, they unbacked it from gold, but it doesn't matter because they got a gun at everyone's head. The US dollar dominance was widespread all over the world. Okay, so it's an analog network there. You know, it's a geographical network. But now we've got crypto. They're digital networks. Okay, we have advantage, which is cool. Everyone can access it, but also disadvantage. Because if people don't like your currency tomorrow, they're literally just clicking out in 2 seconds. Which it's kind of scary, but that's actually true. With the US dollar, you can't do that, right? They'll send the CIA and come and like topple your government, which is good if you're holding US dollar, right? But in crypto, we can't do that. It's opt-in and opt-out. Okay, that's why it makes it a bit more complicated with crypto. That's why that's why with crypto, like, you know, literally someone wants to leave tomorrow, it's literally 2 buttons. You know, they can bridge out, click out, fudge you on Twitter, and it's all over. Okay, so that's why the game's different, but also gives us opportunity. Check this out. Coinbase is launching a token sales platform for retail investors and issuers. So they paid Crypto Kobe $400 million to buy out Echo platform, which would be their competitor. So it might be one of the greatest swing trades of all time. Crypto Kobe made Echo platform. Lets everybody do like ICOs. I'm subscribed to it, but friends, the game's wrecked, friends. The game's wrecked. There's too many coins, dude. There's too many coins. It's not like you go to a restaurant and there's a menu. Oh, there's a chicken, there's a steak, and there's spaghetti. All right. There's like 180 different variations of steak, right? And guess what? Like half of them are poisoned. 75% of them, they're actually good, but the deal is poisoned. You know, it's good luck, man. It's just, and just you look at the projects, friends, as well. You don't understand half of them. They're like, oh, we're making a zero knowledge time swap for a layer 3, which might hook up to a layer 2 on Phantom ecosystem. And you just don't understand what the hell's going on. It's literally most of this stuff. You have no idea. They're so niche. You have no idea. And you don't know who these people are. And once in a while, they do like this plasma chain thing. And it seems so obvious, but it's not. It's the game's changed, fans. There's too many coins. There's too many ideas. It's like handing out pamphlets, right? When it comes to investing. So, like, you know, we tried. And then, yeah, and like, you know, even if you got a good idea, then you got to deal with the fact that, hey, what if your token's locked up for a year? What are you going to do now? You know, that's why, friends, I made a pact with myself. No ICOs after the Bitcoin halving year. That's it. You know, we tried them all 2024, got absolutely decimated. Absolutely decimated. We even got into off the grid. Bro, this is what breaks my heart, friends. Off the grid, okay? They literally made a AAA rated game. Okay, they literally made a game with high tier graphics, online, like an actual thing. We're down 90% from the ICO. Bro, they have Dr. Disrespect playing it. You know, like, so yeah, you actually made something. You actually went and created a AAA rated game. Doesn't matter. So what hope do we have, man? You know, by the way, friends, that's because of the PMI. You see, that's because of the PMI. PMI is 49, doesn't matter what you make. Yeah, it's kind of sad, you know, but then again, you got to take the abundance mindset attitude, you know. Okay, so if you make a AAA rated game and the PMI is 49, no one cares, okay? On the other hand, if you literally take a poop on a piece of paper and call it art when PMI is 60, you have NFT mania. Okay, so I know it's like, it's, you know, I wish you knew this kind of beforehand, but you got to remember as well, friends, like, you know, sometimes you just get these battles in life and they make you learn, you know. If we never went through this, we never would have figured this out. So that's why I'm here to serve you. You're my friend. That's why I actually went and I figured this out, friends. I didn't sit here. I didn't know this because I wanted to know. I go, wait, are we going to go to zero? Why aren't we going to zero? And then obviously I'll find out. By the way, you don't have to look at the PMI. You can look at it. There's like 15 other data points. You know, there's retail sales and new home sales. It's just this one is a nice, clean representation of it. You know, that's why I went and asked when everything was going down in the bear market. I'm like, well, everyone's saying, okay, all these cryptos are scams. They go, oh, you don't even have any cash flow products. I'm reading these smart guys on Twitter. And I'm thinking, bro, Bitcoin doesn't have any cash flow. What are you talking about? Why is that still worth the most? I started investigating more and more, and you start learning about, you know, more Metcalfe's law, network effects, and then you complicate it, right? Because like you're like, okay, you're valued something, but it depends how we feel. If the PMI is below 50, we don't give a crap. Okay, PMI is above 50, we do give a crap. Okay, which kind of sucks because you're like, wait a minute, so like you're telling me your feelings override the fundamentals more? Yes. So that's what that's just to complicate things even more in crypto. That's how we get to where we are, friends. You know, that's why we're all waiting for everyone to feel really, 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 really good, where they try to price in the future very, very heavy. Okay, which we're nowhere near that moment yet. And you got to remember, baby dolls, everything I'm telling you as well. So this is why I'm giving you some insight, because you know people always ask me like, Tommy, how come, say a Bitcoin maxi comes. Right, and I'm watching their interviews, and they say, Bitcoin is the way, the truth, the light. All altcoins are worth zero. We are king. You all got scammed. Bitcoin dominance is going to 100%. All right? Because I hear that same information, yeah, but how come 99 out of 100 people say, oh, they're right, you know? And then I say, nah, I think you're wrong. You know what you're talking about. Okay, how do I have that confidence to do that? It's everything I just taught you, dude. Everything I just taught you, okay? But we are gifted, friends, because you think about it, okay? How wrecked would we be? Imagine Bitcoin couldn't rally when the PMI was below 50. We would all be decimated. Finished. Okay, so that's why Bitcoin's actually is a miracle. Okay, so that's why what makes actually Bitcoin special is even when the PMI is below 50, Bitcoin is the only coin that consistently rallies in a bear market. All right, even with the PMI below 50. But what does that actually mean? It means people actually believe in it. Okay, it means they don't just say they believe, they actually believe in their actions. So in a bear market, it's funny, when they're pessimistic about the future, they still find cash savings and they keep buying it. Okay, that is very unique, and that's actually what gives us the crypto industry. You know, if they didn't do that, we'd have nothing. All right, then we would just be another pure speculation thing. All right. Now, why it gets more complicated? Why it gets more complicated is how long does the bear market part last? All right, that's where we got bonked. You know, because now we're on like month 36, and obviously Bitcoin maxis believe no, it's going to go on forever. And that's why, friends, we're like here at Exploring. You think, well, the world's becoming more digital. People want more privacy. People want to use more stablecoins. They actually want to do more leverage. They're going to put their passports and IDs going digital. They want faster transactions. They want micropayments. They want to be able to swap assets. People playing games, NFTs, tokens, everything we know about altcoins, right? But they just haven't priced it in yet. No one believes. Okay, so that's basically what the bet is. That's what the bet is now. So if the answer was clear, there'd be an opportunity. MicroStrategy has bought 487 BTC for $50 million. And friends, whenever MicroStrategy buys, we always go to bitcointreasuries.net just to see what the MicroStrategy mNAV is, which is how much the Bitcoin is worth on their balance sheet. It's over. It's over. It's ticking down in real time. All right, it's down to 1.0. I mean, it's look, friends, I started covering it when it was 3.5, then 3.4, then 3, then 2.9876543. That we're down to 1.01, dude. Oh my god, yeah, it's so over. Yeah. So it's so screwed. Look, I shouldn't be laughing, but like you gotta understand why it's funny. Like, I've been yelling every day, this is a really bad idea for 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, we're just watching this slowly happen. Here it is. So remember, what this number is, it's a ratio, the price of the Bitcoin on MicroStrategy's balance sheet. Okay, so right now it's above 1, barely. It's 1.01, pretty much. So if you bought MicroStrategy share, you're theoretically paying about 1 to 2% more for your Bitcoin. Okay, and it used to be like, 100% more. At the peak, friends, I think at the peak, you were paying $360,000, I think, for your Bitcoin on their balance sheet. You just gotta love people, friends. I was yelling that this was the most absurd thing to do, and there was literally just a sea of people saying this was the cheapest thing they've ever seen in their lives. This is just it. That's what happens when people are optimistic about the future. The price doesn't matter. That's why, friends. One of my earliest videos in 2023, I made so many videos just telling you. I'm going, look, man. Most people are not in actual markets to make money. Yeah, if you look at their actions, they're actually there to maximize their dopamine. Okay, making money and maximizing dopamine, two different things. Okay, making money is, you ever see that GIF, friends, a little Tibet kid where he's like, his friend just kicking him in the nuts. You ever seen that GIF? Yeah, that's making money. Okay, especially if you want to make the highest return, you're buying low, waiting forever, waiting for the PMI to go up. That's making money. Okay, maximizing dopamine, totally different game. Maximizing dopamine is joining that other smart dude. And, you're listening to Michael Saylor speak for an hour about how Bitcoin is the invention of the new algebra language. It's like discovery of fire. It is the new world, cybernetic horde. It's just, see those words, friends, it's literally making you ejaculate in your mind. But it's just, it does not stop the fact you're paying 360 grand for a BTC. See what I mean? Damn, man. And it's just, we're watching it just collapse in real time. So what happens next? Obviously, that's the $1 trillion question. No one knows. Look, man, it could all be over. We don't know. It could all be over. But we have to take the optimistic case. It could also just mean the demand for Bitcoin is just run out. Okay? And so people are going to conclude that, okay, there's no demand for crypto now. But we hope this just means it's going to shift into the altcoin phase. Okay? Which, we're not going to know until it's too late. Check this out as well, friends. So Vivek Ramaswamy's Strive has bought 1,500 BTC as well. So everybody's still accumulating. It's good, tough to see. Everybody still believes, puts on the balance sheet. The United Kingdom's Bank of England proposed a £20,000 cap on individual stablecoin holdings and 10 million for businesses. So this is how they start, friends. So you can already see many companies and countries around the world, they're so scared of stablecoins, all right? They're trying to put a cap on people. Now, why is that? Well, it's because, friends, they all know. I've told you this thousands of times, okay? Every country, okay, they're just running the same scam the US government does. There's a problem, okay? The US government has got UFO tech. It's got the CIA. It can topple you. They got nukes. They got guns everywhere. And they got all the money. So they can force you to use the US dollar. All right, even while they print, that's why they're the world reserve currency. Okay, you know, before them you had Great Britain, before them you had the Dutch. Okay, so it changes, you know, every 70 to 80 years, but America's still there. Okay, now if you're the Philippines or Scam Long Dongs Vietnam, right, or New Zealand or Canada, right, you don't have guns. You can't do anything. Okay, you're just gonna keep printing money. What are you going to do if your citizens just start holding the US dollar? You're wrecked. You're finished. Because they're debasing at like 7-8% per year. But who's holding the bid now? Okay? The only reason why all these countries can operate is because their citizens have to bid, which means they work and hold the savings of the government currency. Okay, but if we make everything digital, what do you think people are going to choose? They're going to choose the currency that's deflating the least. And that is the US dollar. So that's why all these other countries, they're going to start imposing bans. They're probably going to be like, nah, $5,000 max. You know what I mean? But how can you can't stop that in crypto. We got privacy tech coming. You see why it's important? You have privacy tech, ZK tech. So, but then what are you going to do? You basically, you're going to piss off Trump because the US government wants everyone in the world to hold stablecoins so they can print more money. So that's probably going to be this big new biff. And how's that going to turn out? I don't know. We'll see. Coinbase's CEO Brian Boldstrong says crypto is going to help build a greater prosperity by injecting economic freedom and capitalism into every country in the world. Yeah, those are good words. We'll see. Okay, we'll see. You know what I mean? So it's good, but, you know, so governments, if you piss them off, like someone's going to have to hold the bag. It's kind of funny, fans. People, you know, I've had so many conversations. So many people, these get so close to figuring it out. They get so close. So close. Like with friends on the weekend. They literally, out of like a 20-part stream, they figured out, geniuses, they figured out all 19 parts of the scam. They just could not figure out the final point. The final point. So you admit the system's rigged, the system's scammed, they've only got one tool, they keep printing currency, you don't actually make the decisions, the central bank's in control, central bank can assassinate anyone, they pay the politicians to basically lie to you, they pay the journalists to brainwash you, they pay the economists, they pay everybody to bribe you and to brainwash you through the TV, through all the printed currency. Protesting is useless. Okay, they pay the police force to enforce everything. They pay the legal system. Everything's a total scam. What can you do? Okay, well, guess what? They can only have power over you if you hold the government currency. That's it. If you don't hold it, they're not debasing you. They're printing other people's money. Yeah. So the only way out, you have to vote peacefully. It's a peaceful vote. Okay, you take your money out of the banking system, swap it into crypto. Okay, and obviously I don't say which ones because like everyone's always got like, no, why this, why not that? Just get out of the system, dude. Buy something else. Buy gold if you want, if you really want. Okay, but gold's only growing at about 6 to 8% per year. It's the exact inflation rate of the world. You're just saving from their inflation rate. If we want to accelerate, Bitcoin's going at 67%. Again, that's it. That's what you have to do. But it's kind of funny. Like a 20-step process. They still haven't figured all of it out. They 19 out of 20 correct. It's just the last step. They just don't get it. Okay, it's hard for people to understand. Literally, you holding their currency, you have dollars in your bank account. That's what they use to debase you, man. They're stealing from that. They just inflate the supply. Okay, because what's the alternative? They tax you, but they can't do that because you never vote for it. Okay. If you have $100,000 in your bank account, okay, there's two ways they can take money from you, okay? If they wanted to take $10,000 from your account, two options. Number one, they literally just say, hey, we're going to tax you 10%. There'll be a revolution overnight, okay? So they go, okay, people aren't going to do that. So what we'll do is we'll just inflate 10% of the supply. Yeah, so they've taken 10 grand of purchasing power from you, but you still have your $100,000 in there in your bank account and you're looking at it. You just don't want the number to go down. So I'm kind of glad not everyone's figured it out yet. But if you're in crypto, you've obviously figured it out. You know, that's why all the normies out there, they still haven't. But one day they will. It's kind of funny. I mean, Bitcoin's 100 grand. They still didn't figure it out, friends. So what that tells me is maybe they figure it out at Bitcoin 300 grand, 500 grand, a million. I don't know. We'll see. The Fed Governor Stephen Merant says growing stablecoin demand could push down interest rates, predicting the market could hit $3 trillion in the next 5 years. That's not bearish, bro. A Federal Reserve chairman governor telling you we're going to 3 trillion for stablecoins, friends. That's huge. It's like that's 10x growth. Now, I also want to show this for you as well, friends. Here's some blockchain backer charts. Obviously, he's doom up bearish. This is Ethereum Classic. At the end of 2021 cycle, Ethereum Classic popped to its highest extension on the fib, and the cycle was all over. So this is Bitcoin now. He thinks that Bitcoin is definitely topped and we're going to roll over and die. He's just matching up the charts here. So he thinks we're caught up in the range. This is XRP. He still thinks we are basically doomed. He thinks we're going to go roll over and doom. And we got to remember, friends, we have some euphoria news here. Maybe there's fear, euphoria, fear, and some bad news comes out later on. Here is him showing Zcash, which has pretty much popped up here towards the end of the cycle. And he's showing how Ethereum Classic also did the same. So, man, look, you see what you want to see. You know what I mean? So, like, you brought up these charts. And look at, of course, there's merit to all of these. It's like, well, you know, damn, it's a bit concerning how, like, you know, an old coin, Zcash, has, like, gone parabolic, just like Ethereum Classic did at the end of last cycle. But here's another thing, you know what I mean? I've shown you as well, friends. If you're looking at the PMI, look when Ethereum Classic was pumping. It was here, PMI 61. All right, PMI 61. Zcash is pumping at PMI 40. All right, PMI 61. People are so optimistic about the future. They think the future's bright. PMI 48. You think the future's bleak. Okay. So it is different. It is different. Does he mention that? No. Why? Because, like, it breaks the thesis. Now, I don't know if it's going to be right. I'm just showing you, okay? That's why, friends, there's a lot of nuance to it. There is no magic formula. So that's why, like, you know, it's a believer's cycle. So if someone plays this out, let's say, friends, you never know, maybe in a year or two, someone's interviewing me. They're like, hey, how did you know to just hold on to your nuts when everything looked really bad? Maybe I just repeat that. I'm like, well, the PMI was 60 when Ethereum Classic was pumping and people were buying JPEGs for $400,000. When the PMI is 60, pretty much people believe that, like, the next 24 months of their lives are going to be more profits, more activity, more economic growth, better. You know what I mean? But when Zcash was pumping at a 48 PMI, you're still spinning your wheels, man. You can't even afford the bills. Stake is still growing at 14% per year. You're only getting a 3% wage rise. Not even. You're getting bonked everywhere from the economy. So buying Zcash in that environment, to me, it's not really even optimistic about the future. That's just, you know. So, but who knows? Who knows, friends? We don't know. We don't know. See what I mean? So we're still guessing. Okay. Now, where to from here? Bitcoin on the weekly chart. It's still holding here. 4-year cycle fudders. If I was to just take a wild guess, man, I think, friends, if we do bounce into the end of the year, I still think there's a poopy fake out. Because I've noticed, and you've noticed it too, a lot of the 4-year cyclers, they're sold 30 to 70%. But they still have just a little bit. Because they still have that FOMO where they really want Bitcoin to go up to 150 for them to sell. Okay, but I'm thinking, well, what if we get to like 130 and then we just like fake out again, year of the snake, and get him out there? I don't know. I'm just thinking of something like that. You know, it doesn't give you what you want. And there's really a believer's cycle after that point. So now we've got the government shutdown, Donald Trump, $2,000 stimulus package. You even notice, friends, remember, because they're trying to repeat 2020. You know, with the PMI went from like this year 38, rocketed up to 60. That's why Trump's giving you $2,000. That's why he's even talking about it. They literally just, they sat down and like, listen, what did we do last time that got the PMI higher? You know, obviously they don't say PMI, but how do we get people optimistic for the future? Hand out candy. Okay, well, that'd be funny. Like, subscribe, belly button, or catch you soon.